So we are here the 7th Friday in a row, following last week's lawsuit motion filed by Professor Rosemary Bell-Antwine, the Dean of the Faculty of Law at St. Augustine in UB. She has filed a motion against the Attorney General on behalf of inmates who have been held in our prisons for extraordinarily long times. The IACHR, the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, made it quite clear at a hearing that she requested last year that we are keeping our inmates who are presumed innocent until proven guilty far too long in the system under inhumane conditions. It is a stain on our character. It is an indictment against our public officials who have the power to change these things rather quickly when they are ready. We were able to present legislation to fine 8-year-olds for not wearing a mask within 4 days. So this lets us know the speed with which our officials can work when they are required to do so. The IACHR, the gist of the lawsuit, the motion filed by Professor Antwine, is that we must put a deadline, we must put a time frame. What is reasonable? What is humane? In most jurisdictions, it's 2.5 years. So we are asking the Attorney General to move swiftly to put a deadline, to put a time frame for our judges who were condemned very soundly by the IACHR and our lawyers who continue to act as vampires and vultures, squeezing the blood out of poor people, charging them large sums of money, 3, 4, 5 of them cases on the same time. They are adjourning. The highest paid and the most well-educated people in our country are taking advantage of the poor. So we are here to put some justice in the society, to balance the scales of justice. And we are calling on the Attorney General, first and foremost, to meet with us. We are also calling on the head of the Law Association, because these lawyers are taking advantage of the lax system, which is broken and must be fixed immediately. The ICHR has condemned our government, which has led to this lawsuit. So please, we are asking all citizens to stick with us, support us on this motion, this movement to restore justice, to change our way of looking at our own citizens as guilty until proven innocent. That is not what this legal framework is about. So thank you very much. And as things go on, we will be also outside the Red House today, I believe, to speak with Mr. Faris Al-Wawi.
So he has agreed to meet with you outside of the Red House?
Not yet. When we go there, we will be putting forward our request loud and clear.
Have you made a request to have a meeting with him? I know you met with the DPP. Have you made a request to meet with Mr. Al-Rawi? And if so, what has that response been like?
No, we haven't made an official request as yet. We will be doing that very shortly. By Monday, it will be sent officially. But we've made requests to the Minister of National Security for meetings, and he has refused. The DPP is the first public official to meet with us and to recognize that this is a serious problem, especially with COVID-19 in the prisons.
When you say he has refused, what was the correspondence from the Ministry of National Security to you based on your request to have a meeting with the minister?
Well, our formal official request sent by email was ignored. There was no response. 3 times we went in and spoke with his secretary and communicated that we would like to meet with him. We were told that he was very busy, and then we saw him appear in the papers with a 6-year-old to discuss what matters we don't know. So we are still waiting to hear from him officially. I have spoken to him verbally outside the Red House. He ignored me. We've also sought to meet with the Minister of Finance, the Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Imbert. Again, I was ignored. Is there anyone I missed out that we tried to communicate with? The Commissioner of Prisons, Mr. Pulchan, he was one of the first we went to seek audience with, and we keep hearing reports, allegations of beatings in the prison, the fact that masked officers, prison and police are there on standby to beat the prisoners if there's any rebellion. This is why we are here so urgently, because what is happening in the prisons, the situation is getting worse. with the economic situation and the Attorney General saying that it costs $20,000 to house one inmate, we would think it would be in his interest and public interest to try to reduce the prison population however we can, and to, implement the measures issued by the Ministry of Health regarding COVID, because that population also has contact with the outside world through the prison officers. So we are facing a situation here that requires urgent attention from all involved.
So then do you agree that with the, I believe it is the Prisons Association that made that request that non-violent inmates be released given the COVID-19 situation?
Absolutely. I mean, Mr. Al-Rawi said that he would do so. So we don't understand. He made this promise in April when all jurisdictions, all countries were releasing prisoners. And people who have been in prison for 17 years and now their lives may be endangered by COVID, and we the taxpayer may potentially be facing lawsuits for what is a mismanagement of a catastrophe.
Nazma, can you tell me more about your meeting with the DPP and what assurances you were given to fast track some of the cases which have been pending for a number of years, and what category of cases do you think are most affected by the lack of speedy trials?
Well, I mean, the murders, obviously, and he has promised to review cases that we brought before him where the inmates are saying they have been held for extraordinarily long times, 15, 16, 17, 19 years. Those who have been there, whose families have been destroyed and so on because of this detention, which is, according to most international human rights treaties, illegal. So he has given us an assurance that he will look over the paperwork. He highlighted the fact that he does not have a budget, and he does not control his budget, and he is strapped. Resources are. So we are asking the Attorney General, also who is in charge of this, to move swiftly to give the DPP the resources he requires to do his job.
And how did you classify the cases that you submitted to him? How did you go about doing that?
Well, what we did was we sent out a message to attorneys, family, and so on, and we presented a petition on behalf of these inmates to have their cases reviewed by the DPP. There were a lot of murders, obviously, because they have spent the most time because they could not get bail. Most of the cases are murders.
From those cases, what kind of numbers are we looking at behind bars right now in terms of times that persons would have spent? What is perhaps the largest amount of time that we have an inmate behind bars from those cases you submitted?
19, 20 years? Yes, we have one. Yes, we have one 19, 20 years. We have dozens, over 10. We have lists and lists, starting from
1,000 and something names of prisoners.
Yes, so they've been denied bail because it's a capital offence, and that is something we need to look at as well, and which we can change with. And if it is that the judiciary requires time to straighten itself out, we can give you a grace period of 6 months and so on, but this has to change. We need to look at electronic monitoring devices, house arrest, alternatives to detention, because the conditions in there this will impact on the health system.
And as many criminal justice system, obviously, justice is not only for those accused of crime. What is your message to those who are victims of crime in our society, where murders keep going up and up and up? And how does your movement relate to those people?
No, I think they should join the movement because they want justice and we want justice for them too. How can justice delayed is justice denied if they are waiting 10, 15 years to hear if this is really the person? Because just last week, someone was found not guilty. So this is also for them as well, because how do they, if your house is broken into right now, the police are not in a position to help you to investigate because they're still dealing with cases from 10, 15 years ago. They're still appearing in court for cases that are 15 years old, in memory of the witnesses. People are dying, witnesses. So they need to join this movement as well and say, listen, we need to prioritize, we need to use our resources wisely, and we need to give power to those who require the power to do their jobs, and we need to make laws to protect the poor and those who are already marginalized from this kind of situation where they have to find $100,000 to pay a lawyer who is not appearing.
Do you believe that the evidence that they may have against persons who, they are on remand waiting a trial, that after such a long period of time, 19 years, that evidence could then be compromised?
Exactly. So this is why we're saying let us set a time frame and let the judges. We need more judges. That is one thing. So we are asking the Attorney General, please, double the number of judges that we have so that we can deal. It's simple maths. If we have these thousands of cases and only 20 judges, this is what is going to happen. So let's do the simple maths. Cut the minus those of non-violent people who do not need to be, for the protection of the society, do not need to be detained. Let us use community service plea bargaining. Lawyers, it comes back down to the lawyers who are not letting their clients know what are their options. So people are spending time in remand far longer because they can't pay bail and then they end up getting a sentence finally that is lower than the number of years that they spent in prison. How does somebody who go through that feel about a society when they come back out here and they sit down next to you and me on a maxi taxi? When you find people tripping for no reason at all, just one little thing trips them off because they live in a place where these things can happen.